are going to recruit our student athletes every single day with positivity and energy. University of Minnesota is the greatest place on earth.
Welcome to the Gopher Football Facebook page. I'm Justin Gard from KFAN Radio and sideline reporter for the Gopher Football Radio Network, and we are in the office of new Gopher head coach PJ Fleck. And it's National Signing Day, Coach. Everybody says you don't want surprises on signing day. You just want the guys that are going to sign up, those faxes to come through. How'd everything turn out for you in that regard?
It went elite, it really did. It was a big-time day for us, really monumental day as we continue to take the next step in the Gopher program towards winning a Big Ten championship. I really like the class that we have. Our coaches did a tremendous job with their backs against the wall with only about 2.5 weeks to recruit. And I thought they did an outstanding job of finishing the class. But it's been a big day.
Thanks to Explore Minnesota for having us in Coach Fleck's office today. And a reminder, we're going to be taking Facebook questions like we have done all football season on the Facebook Live show. So go ahead and drop a comment or two in the comments section, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, we mentioned the faxes coming in. They come in very, very early. I think I saw your kids sign their first letter of intent about 5 in the morning today. But we do have video of the first official Gopher signing his national letter of intent, Jake Paulson, earlier today.
Excuse me, Coach.
Excuse me. Morning, everybody. Morning. You guys look so elite. I do want to start by just saying this real quick, guys. Just give me your attention. I just want to say thank you for all your work, especially over the past 2.5 weeks, guys. From what you did, from getting hired to going right on the road, to leaving your family, to going out to build these relationships with these players and these kids, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to the University of Minnesota, and it means a lot, I know, to our alums and everybody involved in this. So I just want to say thank you for that, because this is our first class, obviously, together. That's going to lay the foundation of the 3-4 years from now when University of Football, Minnesota football looks really different.
I cheer for you.
We got our first Chief! We got our first Gopher!
How do you sustain the energy there for 25? First of all, is his arm tired from slapping the oars on the board? But how do you that moment? That's got to be pretty cool.
Well, we get in this profession to educate and teach, right? I mean, the student athletes are what drive us, to make sure that they're the best they possibly can be on the field and off the field, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. And if we can find a way to make a difference in those areas of their life, then we've done our job. So when you get a new group of young men to join your group that's already here, it's a very exciting time. And obviously you saw that in the war room today.
Part of that video, the beginning of that video, was you thanking the staff for their work and really a shotgun sprint start. And I heard you earlier today say the last 2.5 weeks have been drinking water out of a fire hose, I think is how you described it. What has that process been from when you were hired to getting some commitments later that night to now where we are today? It's been pretty quick.
It really has been, but it's I'd like to be able to tell you it's gone by like that, but it really hasn't gone by like that when you're not getting much sleep. But you're so dedicated and you're so energized by the role and the goal that you have and the time frame that you have, that there's so much to do and so much to accomplish and so many people to get to know, that there really isn't much time for sleep. There isn't much time for rest. So I know our coaching staff's really looking forward to that here in the next few days. They get a little time off to be able to do that. But for us, that's what we do best. We do best when you work under pressure and expectations, just like on the football field on a 3rd down call or a 4th down call. That's when you think that you're at your best.
If you were recruiting still for Western Michigan, you would have had an idea of where your needs were as a class, what position groups you wanted to fill. You know exactly where you wanted to go for official visits, the restaurants you were going to go to, what you were going to do. When you come here, and I'm sure you know the team and you got familiar with it quickly and you brought some Western Michigan guys with you, you don't maybe have that background knowledge, certainly of the city. So how do you take what you've done in Kalamazoo and bring it to Minneapolis?
Well, we were going on the official visit kind of together. We were going to different restaurants that I've never been to by just word of mouth and suggestions, going to different places, trusting your people to make sure they knew exactly what was here, that we could show recruits that was an elite time. But for us, I mean, that was the fun of it too, because we even told our recruits, we're going through this with you. You're sitting there saying we're selling you something. We don't even know if we're really necessarily selling you. We just know we came here for a specific reason, and that was to win a Big Ten championship and do things the right way and find a way to be able to do that. So we really needed them to believe that. And through 2.5 weeks, you were able to find guys that really wanted to conform to that relationship. The guys that committed to us really needed us. That was what really is special about this group, because if they just wanted us, they would have went somewhere else.
Right.
That for the last 12 months, somebody wanted them. But I thought they needed our culture and needed that type of environment as you move forward.
The recruiting class on the day you got hired looks a lot different than the one that you ended up signing today. The one constant would be the Minnesota kids. And I'm curious, with all the turnover and all the different guys you extended offers to and those who chose to go elsewhere, why it was important to make sure that core Minnesota group stayed in.
Well, this is our state, period. And I know every coach that works in a specific state says it's our state. But it truly is. We're the only major Division I football program and university in the state of Minnesota. So it really is our state. And those kids mean the world to me. And a lot of them we've already recruited. We recruited them back at Western Michigan because those kids are really, within our, 8-hour radius of driving and being able to get there. So we knew a lot of them anyway. But it was nice to know that when we got here, they still wanted to be Gophers. And that just shows the power of our university. That just shows the power of the University of Minnesota. That when you're born in the state of Minnesota and you live here, you want to be here. Not only that, we've got people who are here that moved out to Oregon and Portland, like
right.
Demetrius Douglas, who father played here, Omar did, and now he wanted to come back here when he was originally committed to Oregon. So it means a lot as you start the next right step in the new era of Gopher football.
Was there a particular position group that you felt like needed to be addressed right away, or a particular position group that you feel really good about? You're mentioning the culture and everything. That's going to be with every kid, but when you break it down more specifically, anything you feel great about one way or the other?
I definitely think there's some needs. I think there's some needs at the quarterback position in terms of fill some depth. I think that definitely at the defensive line position and more specifically the defensive tackle position. We don't have a redshirt freshman, a sophomore, and there's only one junior on the actual depth chart. So that's a major issue that we had to fix. That's why we brought in the 5-6 linemen. When you look at the defensive backs of what happened here the last few months and some things still lingering of what's
right.
going to happen, that we had to be able to fill with some defensive backs. So again, 3-4 defensive backs to fill that hole. You're not going to be able to fill every single need with the first recruiting class, but you're able to plug some holes and create a little bit of depth at least going into your first year.
That's it for me in terms of the questions. We're going to get right to all of the Facebook questions that you guys have been putting in the comments section here on Facebook Live. We'll do that after we give you a little review of what happened here in the football offices today on National Signing Day.
We got our first, Chief! We got our first goal! Nate Ubler, congratulations, my man.
There you go.
Oh, no, you earned the opportunity. You are so us. You're so this culture. I expect you to come in and be a representation every single day of what we're about. Got it? I love you, man. I'm so proud of you. Sky you my baby. Row the boat. All right, man. See ya. Let's raise a toast, right, to the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, right? Our elite community, our elite city, our elite state. Here's to elite things ahead and championships in front of us. Everybody got it? I love you. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
Just to clarify, that was apple juice right in those glasses.
It sure was.
People get a little weary. You never really know the audience here on Facebook Live what they're going to think, because that was early in the morning.
It was early in the morning. Yes, that definitely Welch's grape juice.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Those conversations that you have with the student athletes when they sign, you've put in a lot of time to get to know them as a person. I know you like to start basically just telling people, how'd you get here? And so you learn about them right away. What's that culminating moment like when you talk to them when they say, I just sent in the facts, I'm going to be a Golden Gopher?
Well, it's amazing because it really comes full circle. You watch them at the beginning of the recruiting process, and they're pretty naive to the recruiting process, and they really don't know much about the recruiting process. And as they go through, they finally get weathered, and then you kind of look at it towards the end, and you see how they've come full circle. And at that point, you feel really, really good about where they're at because they've had to fail to get to where they're at. They've had to go different places that they didn't like. You had some battles in there against other teams that they really liked, and what was the difference maker to actually get them here. So you kind of see the whole journey, and that's the story. That's the fun thing about student athletes and college people is that they all have this specific journey. They're learning. It's the most critical time of their life between 17 and 22.
Our first Facebook question is coming from Thomas. He wants to know, you've talked about this as well. We have to recruit our own players first before we recruit new ones. What's the most effective way to get to know the upperclassmen and the guys that you have already here?
Well, I think it's, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think this whole next week, what it's really somewhat dedicated for me is meeting with our players one-on-one. I've met with probably about half of them already by just having them come in the office, introduce themselves. We've had team meetings, we've had winter workouts, we've got a chance to meet with them positionally. So we've got a chance to know our core nucleus. And what I love about this group, there's a lot of leaders on this football team already. Not that they necessarily maybe know how to lead yet, but there's leaders. There's natural leadership qualities from a lot of these guys. We just got to continue to bring it out of them.
Joe gets right to it. He wants to know about the quarterback position. You're obviously replacing a guy who won a lot of games, played a lot of games, and was the quarterback here for the last 4 years, basically. The outlook of that spot, I know you brought in a quarterback or two and you have some here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the one I think that everybody wants to know about. And as we continue to move forward, that's the most important position on the football field. We all know that. I mean, you look in the Super Bowl for the two NFL teams, Atlanta and New England, they have two of the best quarterbacks in the entire National Football League. So it's a major position. We haven't had a chance to really throw the football around and watch them and evaluate them that way. That'll be more towards spring ball. But I like the way the quarterback room works. When they're in a meeting or when they're with Coach Shiraka or when we're in winter workouts, I love how they work, and that's a wonderful start.
Let's talk about the staff quickly. You finalized it a couple of weeks ago. What were you looking for there? You talked about it in your initial press conference, but did you have an idea of guys you wanted to bring with you from Western and guys from all over the country where you said, if I ever move up, if I go to a Big Ten job, these are people that I want with me? How did you formulate that?
Well, first of all, you're always prepared as a head football coach, and even right now I have a 5-deep chart. Even at the University of Minnesota, if anything ever happened, you are always prepared because you're constantly meeting coaches. You're going to coaches' conventions. Even if you're not hiring anybody, you're interviewing a lot of people. You're getting to know people. Who's the next up and coming this? Who recruits that area? Who's doing a really good job with their position coaches? And that your agent helps you with that as well.
Sure.
But there were some guys, our core nucleus, I really wanted to bring. Coach Shiraka to run our offense, who did a tremendous job at Western Michigan University. I used to work for him at Rutgers. And then as you kind of go through, Matt Simon, who played for me, who's from Farmington, Minnesota. Brian Callahan was the national offensive line coach of the country. He's our tight ends coach. Ed Warner, who came from Ohio State with the coordinating experience in the Big Ten. Not only Big Ten, but Ohio State. Kenny Burns and so on and so forth. And then Rob Smith's been a great friend of mine. I worked with Rob Smith at Rutgers and at Tampa Bay to come in and run our defense. It's very similar to what we did at Western Michigan, so I'm very familiar with that part. And Mo Lindquist, obviously, he's one of the best recruiters and best coaches in the country in the secondary. And then you got Bryce Pop, who everybody knows who Bryce Pop is. 11 years in the National Football League Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
And I can go on and on about our whole staff, but very, very comfortable where we're at. I love the way they are, and they mix well together.
We'll have a couple of more minutes for Facebook Live questions, so please keep dropping them in the comments section. Eric wants to know, we hear this a lot, when you're Minnesota, you're not necessarily looking at the top of the recruiting rankings in terms of this guy's top 300 or this guy's top 100, if that makes sense, right? We've always heard you got to find maybe the tweeners, maybe the king of the twos, like you've called yourself, that have that internal fire that maybe other people miss. How do you find that? Eric wants to know about the diamond in the rough aspect.
Well, I think what you did, I think Austin Shirk is a kid just like that. He's a 2-star guy. I was a -2-star, and I found a way to make it to the National Football League. I think stars are overrated at times. I think sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't get it right. But it never measures the unconquerable will, the how, what we call it, of a person, your heart, your mind, your spirit, your soul, why you're doing something, right? The stars don't capture that part. We tend to look really heavily at that. Now, I think for all of us to get to where we want to get to, too, we're going to have to change our recruiting perspective and not look at ourselves as just this or just that. The word just doesn't exist anymore at the University of Minnesota because we are the University of Minnesota, and we have a lot to offer. And we're going to continue to change the game in recruiting, continue to recruit better and better talented student athletes, not just skillful in all areas of their life, and make this place the best we possibly can make it.
Ryan wants to know about the preferred walk-on program, if you could give us an update there on maybe a guy or two that's coming in, and how important that will be as well into building your program.
Yeah, there's a lot of NCAA rules where I can mention some and I can't mention some. Right now, I'll just not mention that many at all, if any. But we have a very solid preferred walk-on program. We want to build that as a tradition here You think of some powerhouses around even our conference or outside throughout the country. Walk-ons are an incredible lifeline and a true pipeline to your program, and they really are the glue that keeps everybody together. You get a few bad walk-ons here or there, and they're not really good people and they're not very good players. It can almost pull your team apart. So walk-ons are going to be incredibly important. I was one day away from being a walk-on. I have a special place in my heart for walk-ons. I think this will be an elite place to be a walk-on because you won't be able to tell who's on scholarship, who's the walk-on. Everybody gets treated very fairly, and I think that's really key as we keep moving forward.
Max might have the most important question. He's obviously seen your YouTube dance videos and wants to know how important a recruit's ability to dance is when you look at him in relation to the head coach.
Well, way better than me, first and foremost. If you can't dance better than I can dance, then you probably won't recruit you, because a great athlete can dance, and they have rhythm, especially the skill positions. If skill positions can dance, we want to look at them because they have rhythm, they've got soul, they've got spirit, they've got how, they've got moves. We want to be able to see those on the field.
Last question for me. I saw one of your recruits mention in the process somewhere that he feels that you understand this particular generation maybe better than anybody in college football. I won't ask you to say you agree with that because that would be self-serving. But I'm wondering, what do you think goes into that? What do you think leads a kid to say that he feels like you have the best finger on the pulse of how these kids think?
Well, I think there's I think it's just energy. I don't think it necessarily means I'm 36, so I am directly correlated to them. I'm still twice their age, right? But I think it's the ability to teach lifetime lessons in a very cultural way, right? So if you're teaching a rivalry, I always use this as an example, and you can't use Bird and Jordan anymore, right? Because I think Jordan's the guy that makes the sneakers, right? That's the guy that actually makes them instead of Michael Jordan, right? You've got to use things they know, like Kanye and Drake and so on and so forth, the people that they're actually going to know. So you've got to adapt your entire lesson plans, if I use that, in terms of the way you teach your culture or the way you teach your philosophy or the way you teach your X's and O's, based on things they're going to understand. And in a world in 2017 where it's instant gratification, it's instant knowledge, they don't need you for just the information anymore. They need you to be able to explain the information. I think that's really key as educators as we move forward. You
mentioned a couple of times that now you get to, I guess, take a collective sigh of relief or breath, but I don't feel like you actually do that yourself. You know, you mentioned the energy and you mentioned you're always thinking about moving the program forward, but between now and spring ball, what does this time frame look like before you guys start?
Well, I think the time frame right now is the coach is going to take a little bit of a breather. The head coach won't. I've got to be in the office. We got a lot of work to do prior to that, but we're going to come back. We're going to start our 2018 evaluations. We've got a lot of things out there in 2018, even 2019 right now to attack that. It's really investing into our players. And that's the most important thing right now is the guys that are actually here. We've got a season to play coming up. Everybody deserves the utmost attention, including the coaches and the entire, University of Minnesota brand. And so everybody deserves that. So we're going to get with our players. We're going to get with winter conditioning. We're going to start preparing for spring ball. And I know everybody's eagerly waiting to step foot on the field for spring ball and actually play some football.
Congratulations on the culmination of, well, I guess 2.5 weeks, but a lot longer when you factor in how long you've worked with some of these kids. Enjoy signing day today, and we'll see you down the road, Coach.
I appreciate it. Row the boat and sky your mouth. Thank you.
He's the head coach, PJ Fleck. We're live from his office. Don't forget, you can learn everything you need to know about the Gopher football recruiting class at gophersports.com, including where to buy tickets, mygophersports.com, for the upcoming 2017 season. Thanks to Explore Minnesota for having us. Don't forget, Soda Social is tonight, and gophersports.com will have all of that info.